I have had some supernatural experiences, but the one I usually tell is when I worked at a supermarket. I grew up in a small town where the main source of employment was agriculture, and the only place to buy groceries was the Cooper family's supermarket. The Cooper family was the most well-known in my town, and they had a reputation for being proud and arrogant, but also strange. Personally, I've always thought that the Cooper's stockroom was a very sinister place with a dark atmosphere. My coworkers felt the same way. The stockroom had high ceilings, and the back rooms always had a strange smell. The offices seemed like something out of a horror movie. Dark, damp, and the floor creaked all the time. The patriarch of the family, known as Mr. Alistair, was an imposing figure in the supermarket, but not for the right reasons. He spent his days lurking in the aisles, harassing the employees at every turn. He didn't tolerate a second of idleness, and if he saw us leaving with a minute left in our shift, his anger was immediate. He blamed us for any minor mistake, as if he was looking for an excuse to unleash his fury. His cold eyes and ruthless attitude earned him the nickname Dracula among the employees, and we all feared the consequences of crossing his path in the darkness of the supermarket. I used to joke with my coworkers that Alistair was a vampire. He just refuses to die. One night, my suspicions were reinforced. Alistair had been lingering around the supermarket all evening. When it was time to end the shift, my coworker went to the bathroom while I gathered my things to leave. As I bent down to grab my backpack, I heard Alistair behind me at the door, telling me to stop by his office for some instructions before leaving. His office was just at the end of the first aisle, after a small hallway past the packing area. Intrigued by Alistair's unusual request, I walked toward his office, noticing how every step echoed in the silent, almost empty supermarket. When I reached the door, I felt a chilling sensation. Upon opening Alistair's office door, I was met with a bewildering scene. The room was shrouded in total darkness, with no signs of life or movement. Although only a few seconds had passed since I heard the old man give me the order until I went to his office. I turned back almost running and met my coworker on the way. I asked him about Alistair, but he said he hadn't seen him at any time. A month ago, my current coworker requested a shift change because one night while he was walking inspecting the aisles, a bottle of water fell from the shelf. My coworker turned around and put it back on the shelf. Greens halfway down the vegetable aisle suddenly fell from the shelf. He kept walking and a few steps ahead he heard a thud. When he turned to look, again the bottle of water was on the floor. Puzzled, my coworker put the bottle of water back on the shelf. A few minutes later, my coworker had to return to these aisles, this time to find 5 bottles of water thrown on the floor. But the worst experience was had by the new guy on the night shift. He told us that one night while he was on shift, he was in the cashier area and a woman who was in the supermarket asked to use the bathroom. The guy saw this old woman enter the bathroom and after several minutes without leaving, he decided to go check what this woman was doing inside and why it was taking so long. The surprise was that when he entered there was no one else there. The guy was paralyzed because there was no other way out of that place other than through the cashier area. He should have seen her leave. Even when Dracula was not lurking in the shadows, strange things happened. Steps sound in the area of the offices, knocks are heard on the walls, and the back rooms stink. All this happens when the offices are completely dark, while we are on our shift next to the offices. I want to share with you some chilling stories that have been part of my life. When I was about 4 years old, I fell seriously ill and spent most of my time in bed. During one of my feverish days, my parents came into my room to check on me, only to find me in conversation with the corner wall. When asked about my unexpected companion, I casually pointed to the spot and said, "The girl with the golden hair there. She wants me to join her in the game." Needless to say, my parents exchanged glances and changed their facial expressions. I don't clearly remember why, but sometime later they moved me to another room in that house. In that same house, on a particular night, I was sleeping alone because my parents were traveling and my sister had gone to stay at her friend's house. Suddenly I woke up in the middle of the night, and as I was falling back asleep, I felt someone lying on the left side of my bed, that feeling you get when the weight of another person falls next to you. I quickly opened my eyes and turned to see who the person lying next to me was, since I was alone in that house. I don't know if it was courage or curiosity that drove me to check the other side of my bed, or if what was more chilling was to turn away to see no one there or to see the most terrifying thing I could ever imagine seeing. There was indeed no one there. I was completely alone. Fast forward to my college days. I resided alone in one of the city dormitories. One afternoon, after using the bathroom, I returned to my room and clearly heard a knock from inside the closet in my room, a knock as loud as if a heavy box had fallen inside. The most disturbing thing of all is that in that closet there was only some of my clothes. Besides, I was completely alone, which left me perplexed. After college, I moved to another city because I was starting to work in my profession. One night, while I was talking to my mother on the phone, I heard a female voice from the top of the stairs, which was very strange because I lived alone. In the middle of my move to my current residence, my mother and I encountered an unexpected event. While we were unpacking things from the boxes, someone knocked on the door. 2 knocks sounded. My mother went to check who it was, but there was no one there. A few minutes later the same thing happened again. It was very strange. I was very worried that afternoon. Now residing in my current apartment, I have encountered numerous unsettling incidents, from inexplicable feelings of being watched to the shocking sensation of being physically shaken awake in my bed. Once, while I was showering, I felt a sinister presence behind me. I turned around suddenly, but there was no one. Another time, while I was sleeping, I felt as if someone was shaking me roughly in my bed for a few seconds. The inexplicable occurrences have become an unsettling norm in my life. Even after getting married, the spooky encounters persist, leaving me to ponder the unsettling possibility of a spectral presence that has followed me along my journey. Intriguing, isn't it? These mysterious events have intertwined in my life in an inexplicable way, blurring the lines between the real and the supernatural. While some may think they are just figments of the imagination, I wrestle with the unsettling idea that perhaps, just perhaps, I am being stalked by a ghostly presence that has followed me on my journey. I went to a concert with some friends one night. I believe it was sometime around December 2015. We all had a really good time, nothing out of the ordinary. One of the guys brought out a box of ancient artifacts he had inherited from his grandfather, who had traveled the world. Among these artifacts was an old dagger, which he claimed had a dark history behind it. No one was very convinced, but we decided to pass it around to take a closer look. When the dagger reached the hands of one of the guys, his facial expression changed completely. His eyes turned somber, as if he was looking at something only he could see. He began to mutter unintelligible words, and his body started trembling strangely. We thought he was having some kind of seizure, but he didn't seem to be in physical danger. However, what he said next sent chills down our spines. He started talking about a dark presence watching him from the shadows, an ancient entity that had been awakened. As he spoke, the room seemed to grow colder, and a feeling of unease came over all of us. Some of the guests began to feel nauseous and dizzy, while others claimed to see shadows moving along the walls. I never tell anyone about this. I've only told a few friends over the years, my girlfriend, and I don't even dare to talk about it. We still have trouble believing it even happened. It was very strange what happened that night. We decided to end the party and get rid of the dagger as soon as possible. But when we tried to move it, the guy wouldn't let go. It seemed to be glued to his hand. He had immense strength, and my friends and I tried to overpower him, but even so, he seemed to have more strength than us. Finally, after a joint effort, we managed to free him and throw the dagger away from the house. However, the night didn't end there. As we prepared to sleep, strange events began to occur in the house. Doors closing on their own, lights flickering for no apparent reason, and strange noises coming from the basement. We felt watched at all times, as if something was lurking in the darkness. We stayed in that spot and did not move for the rest of the night. Eventually, the noises from downstairs also stopped, and everything was silent. We crept downstairs after we felt that we were safe to do so. Whether it was a paranormal experience, some kind of voodoo magic, or just dealing with someone completely out of their mind, we didn't know. All we knew was that we were terrified and did not feel safe that night. When we finally got back downstairs and looked at everything, it was weird. The guy was gone, all the cabinets were open, all the doors, including the basement and the outside front door, were open. It could have been worse. We also found a bunch of weird memorabilia and relics in the basement a while after this happened. We ventured to investigate more in the house and found the dagger mysteriously returning in one of the rooms of the house, as if it had a will of its own. We decided to get rid of it once and for all, this time burying it in a distant and dark place, where we hoped it would never be found again. These are just the highlights, and the things I can remember super vividly. as if it happened just a few days ago. This event was over the course of an entire night, not just a few hours, and there was so much that happened. It was also a few years ago now, so the timeline leading up to all the scary stuff is a bit hazy these days. After that night, none of us were ever the same. The experience left us with a sense of terror and paranoia that we couldn't shake. We wondered what other dark secrets might be hidden in the world around us, waiting to be discovered by the brave or the foolhardy.